Hi, I'm Josh,
And I'm Kelly.
and welcome to Uprooted Faith. This episode, we're going to start a new segment that I'm calling What the Hymn? Where I want
What
every
the
once in a
hymn? What the
while,
hymn?
exactly, we will pick a hymn that may be confusing, controversial, just plain weird, and just go through and explain maybe the background of the hymn, what it means, and does it really mean what it says it means, or just
Yeah.
imagery, right?
Ooh, if you have a hymn that you think is
Yes.
really weird that you want us to unpack, please put that
Put
in
it,
the
yeah,
comments.
put in the
Yes.
chat. We may put it on a future episode. So
Yeah.
we'll do this occasionally. Where again, what the hymn. So tonight, I figured the first hymn that I want to bring up is the hymn that I pulled from the Methodist hymnal, but I think it's in most hymnals.
Really?
It's called "Onward, Christian Soldiers." That you may have sung growing up. You may still hear it. I think it's been adopted by the Salvation Army as well, is what I've heard. They
really?
used that in the past as one of their themes.
Onward, Christian soldiers.
You know what I was thinking too? Since you do play the organ, I should have brought a keyboard and you could have just played it and sung it for
Well,
us.
yes.
Maybe next time. Maybe next hymn.
time.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm bringing my ukulele. Onward.
So we'll get into the Onward Christian Soldiers, and the real question is: from this, are we to infer that the writer of this hymn suggests that all Christians should team up as an army and go conquer the world in Jesus' name? Right? That's what
Yeah.
it's saying.
Yeah, and this we're not saying anything about the actual United States military. This has nothing to do with that. We're not.
That's good. It's good, but it's interesting you say that because people that read this their minds may just go to U.S. military, right? And it's interesting you mention that because that may be where people's mind go when they sing this song.
Yeah, because
in
but
a
this
U.S.
song
church.
is a metaphor.
Yes, and we'll get to that.
It's a metaphor, so we're not talking about, defund the military or whatever. We're not saying that. It has nothing to do with that. And I thought of this pastor, and he's passed away, but I worked with him many years ago, and he was more of a pacifist, and he was very, he's very much about justice issues and so forth. And sometimes that church would have a hymn sing where you could just like call out a hymn number, and then you'd sing a couple of verses. And every time somebody would call out "Onward, Christian Soldiers" because they thought it would make it mad, but he'd just like sing it with gusto. And I just love that story.
Well, that's hilarious. So before we get into the hymn, I did do some research on the background of the hymn, and it is. I'll be honest, it's pretty boring background. I was hoping there's more of a backstory, but the lyrics were written by someone by the name of Sabine Baring-Gould in 1864, and he wrote it as a processional hymn for children that were walking from a bridge in England called the Horbury Bridge to Horbury St. Peter's Church near Yorkshire. So he wrote as a processional, and the music you said that accompanied it is marching music, right? It's a march.
Yeah.
So originally he titled it "Hymn for Procession with Cross and Banners," but I guess they got a more catchy tone, which is "Onward, Christian Soldier," because that is the first verse. But then I found this interesting too. According to the Center for Church Music, the guy that wrote this reportedly wrote it in about 15 minutes. And he later apologized, saying, "It was written in great haste, and I'm afraid that some of the lines are faulty." So I found that hilarious that he admitted, I wrote this in 15 minutes. It's sort of like he had a project to do, and he forgot about it at the last minute. I got this done in 15 minutes.
Isn't that amazing, though, that it's lasted this long? It can't be that bad, you know? I mean,
it is amazing. Some of the guys are gifted that they can put something together so fast.
Yeah.
With this. So with that, I figure we just unpack it, and you can, Kelly, you can set us straight for what it actually means. So what I'll probably do is I'll just read through the first verse. I will not sing it because I don't have a voice like yours, but and you can probably follow along if you search it on YouTube and you can listen to it. But the first verse starts, "Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before." So maybe you can stop there. I mean, what is this based? This has got to be based off of something in the Bible, right?
Well, first of all, I said it was a metaphor, marching as to war.
Okay.
So, already we're seeing this is a metaphor.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, what was your question?
What I guess where's this? So it's as to war, and it says with the cross of Jesus going on before.
Oh,
Maybe I'll finish.
so there's there are references to fighting the powers of darkness, the powers of evil, right? So there is that kind of language, but it's mostly metaphor. And then in Ephesians 6, Paul says to put on the armor of God. Keep going. Read the next line.
Well, this is a part two of the first one. Is Christ, the royal master, leads against the foe, forward into battle. See his banners go. So the first verse sends an imagery of we as Christians should team up as soldiers, marching as to war. Christ is our leader of the army, and we're going against a foe and going to battle. So the battle he's referring to is it sin? Is it evil?
Yeah, I mean that's the question, right? What are we at war with?
Yeah, what are we fighting?
And I think we are at war with the powers of evil.
Okay.
That's what I believe is the meaning of all this. Is that and when was it written?
1864.
Yeah, and so that's important too. This this militaristic view of being a Christian.
Okay.
You know.
My concern with this is when you read through this, and I think I've read various throughout the years using this, as, to go in and justify conquering a nation, right? Well, we're Christian soldiers. We'll play this anthem. This is our anthem. We're going to go in and with Christ. I mean, sort of like with the Old Testament, like when the Israelites went into Canaan, and as they reported, they felt that God was pushing them to destroy the nations so they could be the one nation there, right?
Yeah,
and I feel like this is sort of driving that.
I think that's what they thought God wanted them to do. I don't know that God ever actually said that, but yeah, what comes to my mind is the Crusades.
Yes, that's good.
So, the fact that we are going to go, fight the heathens and convert everybody, and that never goes well.
Yeah.
And the Inquisition, you have to be Catholic, and then the royalty changes. Oh no, now you have to be Protestant. Oh no, now you have to be it. We just changed with the queens, and just kind of crazy times. But and I think also there's a history within the Christian religion of missionaries.
Yes.
And some missionaries did wonderful things. And then some missionaries were really misguided. And there a lot of songs came out of the missionary movement.
Okay.
And some of those songs have very like colonial vibes. So we Christians, we have the light, we have the truth, we have all the answers, and so we're going to go into a dark country, and we're going to take them the light, and we're going to get rid of all their religions and songs and everything. We're going to replace it with ours because we're right and they're wrong.
Yeah.
And so there was this colonial aspect of trying to force people to become Christians. And so there were songs that were written, and we have to be really careful when we talk about light and dark, because it was, I believe, in some missionaries' minds, it had to do with skin too.
Yeah.
We light-skinned people are going to go to you dark-skinned people and tell you how it is. And there's just so much abuse that happened. Sure. And cultures would lose all their music because they, no, that's of the devil. You can't sing that anymore. It's awful that culture's lost all this, these big parts of their culture.
Onward Christian Soldiers, this hymn, was this intended to be written for missionaries as well? It sounds like this is written for this processional for children, and Sabine bearing gold, that was his intention only. He didn't have anything of, we need to use this to help,
No, I don't.
justify missionary movements and stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I know, but you're saying there's similar...
That when we use this metaphor of war,
yes,
or light and dark, heathen,
yeah,
that was, if you're not white and Christian, you're a heathen, basically. All that kind of stuff, can add up to some really warped Christianity. So I'm not saying this was written for that, but it was written in the 1800s when a lot of missionary activity was going on, and so it may have been used. Maybe
it was adopted by yes.
But no, I don't think that was his intention. I just think that, you can fire kids up by talking about, you're a soldier, that kid's song, I'm in the Lord's army.
Yes.
Same thing,
Yeah.
It's got that march beat to it.
I love that. I remember seeing it when I was in grade Sunday school.
Because that, especially, I don't know when that was written, but there was a time in our country's history where being a soldier was very respected, and kids wanted to grow up and be a soldier, and so I think that's just
what's this. I was going to go through. So the first verse as we went through, it basically says, "Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war," and then it says, Christ is our royal master that leads against the foe, and he's going forward in battle, and then I'm going to jump down to verse 3, and it basically says, like a mighty army moves the church of God. So it moves from Christians or soldiers in an arm with Jesus as the master to the church is the army. That's brothers we are treading where the saints have trod. We are not divided, all one body. We one in hope and doctrine, one in charity. So the imagery it's given is the church is the army. We're all soldiers, and Christ our master. So I feel like at the time when this is written also, it was during some imperialism in Great Britain. So this may have been, people could understand this and they could equate this.
Yeah,
but I feel like
good point.
taking it today's context, I feel like this somewhat sends a negative connotation or misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So,
and especially, we Americans have a problem with royalty.
Yes.
We had a whole war.
Yeah.
With them about that. So, we're like, we don't want royalty. But as a whole, I think this hymn is talking about standing up and fighting against the powers of evil, Satan, however you want to, sometimes, which refer to Satan has this army or legions of demons, and so it's a militaristic way of looking at it. Like I said, it's a metaphor, but there's nothing wrong with fighting against evil.
Yeah.
Right? Our United Methodist vows of membership include that we are going to renounce the spiritual forces of evil, reject the evil powers of this world, resist evil, injustice, and oppression in whatever forms they present themselves. So, I'm not saying that there are not evil powers that there are. But
this is not. I mean, someone shouldn't read this and say, "Well, we're justified for going in, taking our army in, and overrunning the country." Right? Yeah, the metaphor. And I think it's at the time. I mean, I think what it's trying to get at is it's as an army, you're fighting a common cause, right? So as Christians, we need to be together fighting a common cause, which is evil, right? And we need to come together and work that common cause. And Christ is the leader, and he's using, again, this imagery because at the time, that's what was relevant. People can understand that. Similar to, like, if you go back to Jesus' parables, some of that stuff makes no sense in today's context, but it made sense to people at the time. So it's just, we're reading this or singing this 150 years later. It's going to provide a different context for us based off compared to what they saw back then or how they understood it back then in 1860s.
Yeah, and so Paul wrote about the armor of, put on the armor of God,
Yeah.
But again, so that you can make a stand against the tricks of the devil. Here it is. We aren't fighting against human enemies, but against rulers, authorities, forces of cosmic darkness, and spiritual powers of evil in the heavens. But so it's stand with the belt of truth, justice as your breastplate, the shoes of the good news of peace, and the shield of faith, helmet of salvation, and sword of the Spirit, which is God's word. So, it's a metaphor.
Yeah.
But we do have to fight against powers of evil.
Well, there you go. So it's a metaphor, shouldn't be taken seriously. So what the hymn?
Well, it should be taken
I guess
seriously,
not at face
but
value,
not
I guess,
as
that's what I meant,
it's not a defense or an excuse for us to go to war.
Yes. Or to justify missionaries going in and totally demolishing the culture of that place, right? So, interesting. So there you go. There's Onward Christian Soldier for What the Hymn. If there's any hymns that you have been confused about or just weirded out about or just heard someone sing, it may not even be in a hymnal. Maybe you heard it sung in a church or sung on, Christian radio, and it's like, what the heck are they talking about?
Yeah,
put in the comments.
If you grow up in the church, you're used to songs about blood. But, if you've never been to Christian church and you visit and there's a fountain filled with blood, nope, I'm out.
You know how many songs mention blood? I need to do the stats.
You need to do the stats.
Probably half of it, at least half will mention blood.
A lot of songs deal with blood. And so if you grow up in church, if you've been a Christian long enough, you understand blood. You understand what that is, what they're talking about. But if you were just new to the whole thing and you came to church and talk about getting washed in the blood, no, thank you, I'm out.
Thanks again for watching.
If you're still watching us at this point, thank you.
Thank you.
And leave us a music note emoji
in the comments. Yeah,
and don't forget to like this video and subscribe because that really helps our channel.
Yeah. So until next time, we'll see you in the comments.
Bye.